It was supposed to be a routine day in the world of luxury and high stakes, but one phone call changed everything. A successful black woman, confident and composed, arrived at the private hangar expecting to board her own jet, but as she approached, she was stopped denied access in a way that left everyone around stunned. The tension was electric. People who thought they controlled the room suddenly found themselves on the back foot, unsure how to respond. Her calm voice over the phone cut through the chaos, and what she said next would leave careers hanging by a thread. Executives who were used to making decisions with impunity froze, realizing their power could vanish in an instant. The world around her, polished and untouchable, began to crack. Every glance, every whispered word, seemed to signal that things were no longer the same. In those moments, no one could have predicted the ripple effect that was about to unfold. What started as a denial escalated into a dramatic chain of events, exposing truths and shaking the foundation of authority. And just as the first consequences hit, the story paused, leaving everyone waiting what would happen next and who would survive the fallout. Weeks before that tense moment at the hangar, she had been quietly building her empire. Everyone knew her as a woman of influence, sharp instincts, and undeniable charm. But very few understood the battles she had fought to reach this point. Her career wasn't just about wealth or prestige. It was about breaking barriers that had kept people like her out for generations. Each success had been hard-earned, each decision calculated, and yet, no one expected the kind of pushback she would face that day. The executives who blocked her access were powerful in their own right, but their motives weren't entirely clear. Was it jealousy, fear, or a hidden agenda? Whispers had always followed her through boardrooms and private events, yet she had learned to navigate them with grace. That morning, though, everything felt different. The denial of her own jet wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a statement, a test of influence that no one had anticipated. As the seconds ticked by, bystanders exchanged uneasy glances. Phones buzzed quietly, conversations paused mid-sentence, and a sense of suspense hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. She remained calm, her eyes scanning the room, and in that silence, everyone knew something unprecedented was about to happen. But no one could predict the scale. The tension at the hangar didn't fade. It only grew thicker as murmurs spread among the staff and onlookers. Some whispered about a miscommunication, others suggested something far more deliberate. From her perspective, every second mattered. Her calm exterior, hiding the storm of thoughts racing through her mind. She had dealt with skepticism, bias, and closed doors before, but this moment was different. It wasn't just about her jet, it was about authority, respect, and the subtle power dynamics that had been stacked against her for years. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the executives scrambled. Their carefully curated images of control and influence were cracking. Emails flew between offices, messages buzzed on phones, and one by one allies turned to question each other's loyalty. Some worried about the implications of defying her. Others feared exposure. Subplots were unfolding in real time. Investors whispered about reputations at risk. Assistants debated whether to intervene, and even family members connected remotely sensed the storm brewing. From every angle, the situation was tense, unpredictable. Cameras and phones captured every reaction, the energy in the room, electric and uncertain. Her quiet authority contrasted sharply with the executive's panic, leaving everyone questioning who really held the power. And just as the first phone call echoed with consequences no one anticipated, it became clear this was only the beginning, and the fallout would reach far beyond the hangar doors. The room had grown almost unbearable with tension. Every second stretched, each one filled with unspoken challenges and quiet calculations. She stood there, composed, her phone still in hand, as if time itself had slowed around her. The executives, once confident and untouchable, now shuffled nervously, their carefully rehearsed facades slipping with each passing moment. Whispers turned into urgent conversations, and the air buzzed with the electricity of impending consequences. Outside the hangar, staff and onlookers sensed the drama unfolding. Eyes darting between her and the executives, some reached for their phones, unsure if they should record or stay out of the unfolding storm. Investors, board members, and associates waited on calls, anxious to know how this confrontation might shift the balance of power. Every decision here had weight, and everyone felt it. Her voice finally broke the silence, calm but firm, sending ripples of disbelief through the room. The executives froze, some swallowing hard, others gripping tables for support. As the implications of her words began to sink in, tension reached its peak, as phones buzzed and alarms of reputations threatened to shatter echoed in the background. Every eye was on her, every thought racing. What would she do next? Who would fall? And who could possibly recover from what was coming? The moment before everything changed hung heavy, impossible to ignore. Just as the executives began to regain a fraction of their composure, an unexpected alert flashed across the main control panel. A new development had entered the scene. Her assistant, who had been quietly observing from the sidelines, spoke up with a calm but unnerving precision. The assistant revealed that sensitive documents, previously thought secure, had already been shared with key industry contacts. Eyes widened, and whispers erupted. The stakes had just doubled. What no one had anticipated was how quickly the situation could spiral beyond anyone's control. The executives' panic deepened. Their carefully constructed reputations built over years suddenly seemed fragile, vulnerable to a single misstep. Phones lit up with urgent calls, texts pinged insistently, and the hum of anxiety filled every corner of the hangar. Meanwhile, she remained composed, almost serene, as if fully aware of the leverage she now held. Her calm contrast only intensified the tension, making it clear that she wasn't acting impulsively. Every move had been calculated. From outside the room, colleagues and onlookers sensed the shift. The story had evolved from a confrontation over a denied jet to a high-stakes game of power, influence, and strategy. The executives' careers now teetered on the edge, and no one knew who would emerge intact. With every passing second, the anticipation grew. What would happen next? And how far would she push before everything exploded? The tension finally snapped like a stretched wire. She stepped forward, phone in hand, and calmly announced that she had already rerouted the jetant. The executives' attempts to block her access were now meaningless. Gasps filled the hangar as staff realized the extent of her preparation. Their power, which had seemed unshakable, crumbled in an instant, leaving them scrambling for explanations. Investors on the line could barely hide their shock, and whispers of accountability spread like wildfire. The executives tried to protest, but their words fell flat against her firm authority. Every move she had made was precise, calculated, and backed by evidence they hadn't anticipated. Careers that had seemed secure were now in jeopardy, and the room was flooded with a mix of awe, fear, and disbelief. She had turned what appeared to be a humiliating moment into a display of strategic mastery, proving that influence and preparation could overcome even the most entrenched resistance. Just as the room began to settle, an assistant handed her a sealed envelope she hadn't expected. Opening it, her eyes widened slightly. Inside was proof that someone higher up had been watching the situation all along, quietly recording every misstep of the executives. The final twist hit the hangar like lightning. The story wasn't over. Power had shifted, yes, but the next chapter promised revelations even more explosive, leaving everyone, including her, on the edge of what was about to come. The room finally began to breathe again, but the weight of what had just happened lingered. The executives, humbled and shaken, retreated to regroup, realizing that their actions had consequences they could no longer control. Investors and staff alike started to whisper about her competence, determination, and ability to command respect in a world that had often tried to sideline her. The denied jet, the tense standoff, and the unexpected documents had all become a lesson in power, strategy, and resilience. She collected herself, closing the envelope carefully, understanding that while this chapter had ended, her journey was far from over. Her calm, composed demeanor had not only resolved the immediate conflict but also set a new standard, one where respect could not be taken lightly, and preparation could turn potential obstacles into opportunities. The assistants and colleagues who had witnessed the events felt inspired, recognizing that courage and clarity could change outcomes in ways no one anticipated. As she finally walked toward her jet, the sun catching the sleek fuselage, there was a quiet sense of triumph but also a lingering question. Who had been watching, and what would they do next? The story closed on a victorious yet reflective note, leaving everyone with a powerful reminder. Influence, integrity, and poise are forces no one can easily deny.